Hey, this is Lonnie Matthews. I wanted to put together this video called New versus Used. I was recently talking to an acquaintance about, making a car purchase and whether or not you should buy new versus used. And before I get into it, I'll let you know, me personally, I am of the mindset now that I tend to buy cars that are at least a year or two older. I have in the past purchased new cars. I've actually purchased two new cars in my lifetime, and just over the last few years, as I'm in this wealth building phase, I've determined that car payments can really bog you down and keep you from achieving your goals. Now, I'm certainly not against anyone purchasing a new car. At the end of the day, it's your money and you're entitled to do whatever it is you choose to do with it. But thing about me is I do like math, and math is math. Every day, all day, 2 plus 2 is 4. So what I want to do in this video is just bring the math to you. Afterwards, you'll have to make that decision whether or not you feel comfortable or okay purchasing a used vehicle. It's just that when I look at the math, the math tells me that I want to purchase a slightly used vehicle. So the vehicle that we're going to choose today is the one and only Toyota Camry. Now, first, let me say this is not an endorsement of Toyota or any of the Toyota products. I will say that I drive Toyotas. I've driven Toyotas probably for the last 20 years or so, and I just like their cars. So I chose this Camry. As you can see, the Camry here is retails for about $26,000. That's the MSRP, the manufacturer suggested retail price. So for the purpose of this example, we're going to just go with that price. Now, you may be able to get some incentives and things like that from a dealer. They may give you a couple $1,000s off of your purchase price. But for the sake of this example, we're going to go ahead and go with the Toyota Camry at the price, which is $26,170. Now, as we get ready to make our purchase of this Toyota Camry, I want you to keep in mind that this is a new car, which means that you probably won't have any maintenance issues or anything like that. And it's a really reliable car. So now let's take a quick look at what this purchase is going to look like. So right here, as you can see, it's $26,170 is the purchase price. Most of the time, you're going to have to put down some type of down payment. If you have decent credit, the bank would like for you to have at least a 10% down payment. That way you'll have what's called a 90% loan to value ratio, meaning you'll have 10% equity in the vehicle and the bank will loan you the additional 90%. All right, so in our example here, we're going to end up making a down payment of about $2,617, which means we're going to finance the $23,533. And this person has decent credit rate. So at the time of this video, the interest rate for someone with decent credit is about 4.63% interest here. And they're going to finance it for 60 months. Now, I realize now that a lot of times dealers will allow you to finance over 72 months, which is 7 years. Which is 6 years. Again, that's a choice. They usually do that so that your payment is lower, but what normally happens is on the back end, you tend to pay more interest and ultimately end up paying more for the vehicle. So for our example, we're going to go with the standard 60 months. So now let's take a look here. We see that the payment is $447 per month, and that you would have paid about $28,837 for this vehicle. That total price comes with the 60 payments of $437 plus the $2,600 down payment that you made. And you will have paid about $2,667 in interest during the life of this loan. So again, Toyota's a great vehicle to drive. If you choose to purchase a new vehicle, this car will last you a long, long time. I remember buying a Toyota Camry in 1997, and I had it for 13 years, ended up with about 350,000 miles on the vehicle. In fact, here's a quick snapshot of the odometer that I took a long time ago before I finally got rid of the vehicle. All right, so that's the new vehicle. I was recently reading an article that said that the average car that's on the road today in the United States is about 11 years old. So if you take the newest cars and the oldest cars and you come up with an average age, the average age is about 11 years old for cars on the road in the United States today. It was an interesting article because what I found to be more interesting in that article is that the average American tends to trade their cars in every 6 years. So what we're seeing here is that the car on average 11 years on the road, but people are trading them in 6 years. So if you were to use this example where we paid this car off in 5 years, about a year later, the person would end up spending trading it in. And that is and so then you're back into this car payment business again, and you just find yourself perpetually in the car payment business, which if you're paying $434 a month perpetually, that you're missing out on the opportunity to take some of that money by not purchasing a new vehicle right away and investing some of that money to build some wealth. So that being said, I don't want this video to be extremely long. So what I want to do is introduce to you an alternative to purchasing the brand new Toyota Camry. And that would be to purchase one that is 2 years old. Studies show that most vehicles will depreciate about 35 to 40% in a 2-year time period. So if you bought a $20,000 car, in 2 years, it's only worth about $16,000, studies will show. All right. So let's take a look at this vehicle that I found here. And as you can see, it is a 2018 Toyota Camry SE. When I saw this vehicle, it had about 34,000 miles on it. So it's a really good deal. It's actually a great deal according to the website Cargus. And you can look at any other website out there. There's Auto Trader, there's Edmunds, and just a whole bunch of different car websites out there. I just chose this one because they provide you with a lot of details. So I found this vehicle. It's a Toyota Camry at a local dealership. It's about $16,000, right? $16,944 to be exact. And it's got about 34,000 miles. Most car manufacturers have a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty on it. So this one still has about 2,000 miles worth of warranty. You can also purchase a extended warranty if that's something that makes you feel comfortable. Usually it'll spend somewhere between $600 and $800 extra to get a warranty on the car and get you up to 100,000 miles in 5 years. So certainly something worth looking into when it comes to purchasing a vehicle. Now, before I get into the numbers here, let me say this. What I don't want you to do is run out and grab the first used vehicle you find, right? That is certainly not what I'm saying, nor am I advocating. When you're buying a used vehicle, you need to give yourself at least 3-4 months before you're ready to purchase or want to purchase to do some research and find some really good deals, right? This particular website, it told me that this vehicle was a one-owner vehicle. Meaning only one person had owned it for the 2 years. It wasn't involved in any accidents. It wasn't flooded. It wasn't salvaged or any of those things like that. Those are things that you can find out by doing your research. You can also go to Carfax.com. That's another website. Will give you the same information that's available out there. So again, I want to encourage you to do your research. Please do your research. I would recommend buying from a reputable dealer. Most of the time, reputable dealers have their reputation to worry about, so they will bring the cars in, do a 170-point inspection, and make it, in some cases, a certified used vehicle. Not sure if this is one, but they will do the check. So let's take a quick look at the numbers here for the Toyota Camry, the 2018, because I don't want this video to be too long, right? So as you can see here, purchase price is $16,994. Again, we're going to do the same 10% down payment, which means it'll be about $1,600. So right away, your down payment is about $1,000 less by buying a used car over a new car, because remember the other car was a $2,600 down payment, which means you're going to finance $15,294. All right, I want to stop here before I go into the rest of the details on the car. And see, this is where my mindset had to shift, 15 years ago when I, was stuck in the financial rut and was trying to get out of debt and all this good stuff. And, we kept buying new cars and, turning them over every 6 years, just like everybody else. No different in that regard, but I had an epiphany moment and had to decide that I got to stop. So in order for me to make the point that I'm trying to make by saying new versus used, I'm going to have to make this an apples to apples purchase, because obviously if I were to take this deal here with $15,294 and spread that out over 60 months like I did the other car, my payment would be a lot less, and I would obviously pay less in interest, and I'll also pay less for the car. But I want to make this thing apples to apples. So I'm saying that to say I'm going to commit the same $437 that I was going to commit to the new car. Because remember, with the new car, let's take a look back. With the new car, your interest, your payment is $437. All right. Now, so in your mind, you can afford the $437. I'm certainly hoping that you would not commit a 5-year payment of $437 if you could not afford it. I just can't imagine someone going down that road. So I'm saying that to say, if you're going to commit the same $437 for 5 years, then why don't we apply that same $437 a month payment to this vehicle here? And that's how we can bring this to apples. I hope that makes sense to you. So now let's go back. If I take this $15,294.60 purchase for the same monthly payment of $437, if you'll notice here, I want you to notice something, that this vehicle will be paid off in 38 months. That's just over 3 years. That's 3 years and 2 months to be exact. So I'm going to take this $437 that I was going to apply to this 5-year note and apply it to this $15,000 car. And that $15,000 car is going to be paid off in 38 months, just over 3 years. Now, let's finish looking at this thing here. You're also going to see that you're going to end up paying about $18,340 for the car. So you can spend about $10,000 less on this vehicle than you would be buying the new car. And you'd have only paid about $681.40 in interest during that time period. And so this is why I like the math part, right? The math part makes sense. So I'm going to take the same payment and pay it on a car that's slightly older with a few miles on it and have that car paid off in 3 years rather than dragging that thing out to 5 years. I'm also going to pay less interest. I'm going to pay less for the car. Everything points from a math standpoint at this point, a lot of points to purchasing a used vehicle. But math is not always at play here. There are a lot of psychological things that are involved when making a big purchase, and I totally realize that. A lot of times we bring our own past experiences into purchases and into our personal finances that causes us to do things that are kind of go against the grain as far as the math is concerned. If I'm looking at this from a math standpoint, buying a used car makes sense. But a lot of times emotional. Sometimes maybe you've never bought a new car and you got to have one. You just want to have one. I got to have one. I was there. Will I ever buy a new car again? Probably not. But I've done my fair share of new cars. But again, maybe you had some bad experiences with the used car and you just don't want to deal with the hassle. Maybe you like the comfort of knowing that if I buy it new, I'm not going to have any problems with it. All of those things come into play. So I'm totally not trying to underestimate that. But what I am trying to do is show you that the math part. And if you're trying to build wealth, math is what you want to be concerned with. And somehow, some way, you're going to have to get past these psychological barriers that's keeping you from your greatness. So now, I didn't want to turn this into a motivational speech, but I do want to go ahead and look at the last part of this presentation because I'm not done. This is the wow factor that's going to come up here in a moment. So as you can see, looking at the tail of the tape and comparing these cars side by side, and you can also see here in this picture that these cars look very much alike. There's not a lot of changes in a 2-year time period in a vehicle. They usually maybe 2 to 3, 4 years, they might do an upgrade. But for this purpose here, these two cars look very similar. A lot of the features are probably still the same. So as you can see here, we depreciated. So we bought this car 2 years old. It had already depreciated about 35%. Just like I said, 35 to 40% in the first 2 years. We were able to buy this car at a significant amount less, almost $10,000 less. We save about $9,176 in the cost of the car, in the purchase price of the car. And then, of course, let's not forget that we saved interest by buying a used car. The new car, the interest was about $2,667 over the 5 years. In this case, we only spent $681.40 in the 3 years for the used car. So we saved about $1,985 in interest during the same time period in purchasing this vehicle. Now, before I show you this is the thing that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to show it to you here in a second. But before I do, really, wealth building is about taking the assets, your largest wealth building asset or tool, which is your income, and using that income wisely and being able to put it into things that are going to grow in value. While a car is an asset, it is a depreciating asset. So you don't want to spend a significant portion of your income that you're going to earn in your lifetime putting it into assets that's going to go down in value, right? And so by buying new cars, unless you have the money to purchase it outright, then you will be stretching out these payments and just using up your assets to something that's going down faster in value than you're actually paying it down. So that's how people end up upside down on vehicles. If you use the example of a $20,000 car that depreciates 40% in 2 years, that means that car is only worth $16,000. And you probably still owe about $18,000 on that loan, which means you're upside down. All right. So now here's what I wanted to show you. Here's the wow factor in this example. If you were, remember, we said that we committed the $437, right? In our minds, psychologically and physically, we committed the $437. And we were going to do it for 5 years, right? But if we took that same $437 and bought a 2-year-old Camry, in this example, we'd be done in 38 months, 3 years and 2 months. But what if we took that $437 and continued to save it and pay it to ourselves in a savings account for the rest of the 5-year time period? Because remember, you had already committed it to 5 years by buying the new car. What has changed? I mean, if the same commitment that you were going to use there, you can use here and continue to pay yourself. If you do, you will have, check this out, $9,614 in the bank saved. That's not including any interest. That's just the money that you've put away yourself. You could invest it, you could save it, or whatever the case may be. So that to me is the biggest thing. Or the biggest reason why I tend to purchase used cars. I pay them off faster. I'm able to take that same money and commit it to other purposes in this case. So what you've got to ask yourself in this moment right now as you're thinking about this example that I just went through, if you're in the market for a car right now in 2020, you got to ask yourself, what do you want to have 5 years from now? 5 years from now, you can have a 5-year-old 2020 Toyota Camry that's paid for. Or you could have a 7-year-old Camry and have $9,000 in the bank. Hey guys, I hope this has been helpful.